Welcome to our live webinar today, How to Market to Gen Z. My name is Jack Smithson. I'm a small business growth expert and the inbound marketing strategist here at Keap. Been here for about 7 years working with our customers and potential customers and working in marketing and creating content for both education and like lead generation. And so I love this topic because it's all about, honestly, it's all about marketing to, like, specifically personalized to the Gen Z, or that generation that is quite literally coming like right into moving into its prime. And so we will get rolling. Hello from Miami. Welcome. And Honolulu. Welcome. Excellent. And here is our like the first question. And this will be cool because everybody answer in that, like everyone, and tell me what generation you're from. And so Gen Z is 95 to 2010, and Gen Y are millennials. There we go. 80 to 94, Gen X 60 to 79, and then the boomers 40 to 59. It'd be perfect. Gen Z, Gen Y, cool. And then X and X and X. Got lots of Gen X, which is fantastic. I myself am Gen X, and this is a non sequitur. Lori, millennial, awesome. My wife also millennial. So I talked to her about all of this content, and she said, "Wow, it's like Gen Z and millennial are very close, but there's some like really key differences because I have children that are like Gen Z." And it's fun to compare to like millennial, Gen Z. There's some similarities, but there's some big changes. Cool. Gen Y, Gen X. There is a lot of Gen X, which honestly is normal, especially for established entrepreneurs. Perfect. Martha is Gen Z. Welcome. Perfect. All right. We will ask your opinion. I'm just looking to see if I've got more. Chloe's Gen Z. I've got a couple of Gen Zs. Brandon is Gen Z. Awesome. Very cool. Jess, Gen Z. Nice. And those are honestly like my young entrepreneurs, my young business people moving into the business world, and where it's a big deal, honestly, because Gen Z, as I'll show, has a huge influence on politics and consumerism, and there's a lot going on there that bears consideration. So yeah, just scrolling back down, seeing all my Gen X. So like by far, I think mostly Gen X is then Gen Y, and honestly, I think I have as many baby boomers I do Gen Z. They're kind of equal. And that's, which is awesome because honestly, Gen Z is, we'll cover this, and I'm jumping ahead because it's just kind of exciting based on all of the homework I did for this. Gen Z likes to self-educate, but they also like short form content. And this, like, webinars aren't short form content, but it is like self-educational content, which is right up Gen Z's alley. And so we will get rolling. I really like this slide, and I found this. I think I have a citation of where I actually found this. This is a table from McKinsey and Company on CEO Today magazines, their website. And this was just a little comparison of Gen X, Y, and Z, and giving some like context, some behaviors, and consumption or consumerism. And this is, of course, this is averages, this is generalization. And so I'm not pigeonholing anybody into these as far as X, Y, and Z. These are averages based on studies and surveys and things of that nature. So they are generally on average correct, but not like specifically to you individually correct. So I'm not fitting anybody, any square pegs into round holes here. But Gen Z, contextually, mobility and is a big deal, right? Mobile computing and the smartphone, multiple realities. And I love that one because my Gen Z kids, and I've got I think my oldest is 26. And then, so she's right at the top of that that Gen Z border. She's like the oldest Gen Z. And then I've got a son who's 23 and then one who is 20. And they fit like firmly into this. And when we talk about multiple realities, they've got different groups. And I don't know if you remember, it was maybe an old Seinfeld, and that's very Gen X, right? Where they talk about worlds colliding or having friends from your different worlds, like your work world and your social world, or this or that, or your church world, and having those worlds colliding. Well, those are, we refer to those as multiple realities, and being online, having an online community, but also having your local, your friend community, and a whole, like all the different communities. Like my youngest son has his gaming community, his Xbox community, but also there are like multiple realities or multiple, I hate to call them like, multiple realities, but maybe microcosms that Gen Z is better at navigating than Gen Y and Gen X. And they're digital natives. They grew up with digital. And they're communaholics. They really are community, and they are better at community. And they're dialoguers. They like to talk over the issues, and they are very vocal about their opinions about issues and what's going on. And we'll cover some of that. But even more so than past generations, they're probably most similar to millennials. But they are in and of themselves very unique and different. And if you are anybody that called out from Gen Z, if you're Gen Z and you want to throw in an opinion in the chat, I welcome it. Or anybody actually, as far as adding to the communication or adding to the conversation, feel free to hit up that chat. Okay, so I'm going to start rolling down these because I want to cover all of them, and there's plenty to cover. But I'm going to point out some of the differences and some of the important facts about Gen Z, and then we'll talk about how what this means to you, or what this means to your business or to the marketing of your business and how you're communicating. And Andrew says, "Hey, will there be a replay?" There will absolutely be a replay, and I've got a link. As a matter of fact, let me do this because. Okay, cool. So this right here, I'm going to put this in the chat. Okay, cool. So that is my replay link. And actually, I'm going to pull this in. So it's this link right up at the top, this thing right here. And right now it's got last week's webinar. As of tomorrow, it will show today's. It'll have today's recording in it, and it will keep it there for another week. And then after that, it will go to the webinar resource page on the website. So that is where you will find the replay for this. And I just wanted to show that to you so you can access it. And we will have that go out, a link to that in the email that goes out tomorrow. But primarily, if you've got that link, you can just save it, because all the webinars go to that page and sit there for a week before they go to a more permanent home on the website under the webinar resources. So if you keep that and just favorite that page, then you've always got the most recent replay. So that's just a hot tip for me to you. Okay, cool. Gen Z has a ton of buying power. Google estimates that Gen Z U.S. spending power could be close to $200 billion. Now, when we talk about their spending power, we're also talking about their influence on their family spending power and their parents' spending power. And this is absolutely it's absolutely true, because I think about my Gen Z kids, my oldest 26, or 26, 23, 20, they do influence my purchasing decisions, all the way down to my 16-year-old, who is like literally the only one who's still home, and he's off at school. But they really do influence the purchase power. And if you have kids, if you're Gen X, then most likely you do, or you're millennial. Your millennials have kids too. They're younger. They're that alpha gen. So I think the oldest of alpha is 11 right now, but your kids do influence the purchase decisions of a home. So when we talk about, hey, $200 billion. That's a lot, whether they're making their own purchases or influencing the purchase decisions of their parents, of those or of their the millennial cohort or their Gen X parents. So that's really important to consider. So if your business is marketing to or looking for customers that are like in that demographic, so like if any of your customers are 26 years old or younger, then this is something to pay attention to. Next, Gen Z, which here comes moving, there's like a toolbar that I just have to move out of the way a little bit. Okay, Gen Z, which includes today's teenagers and early 20-somethings, so 24, 25, 26, currently make up 25.9% of the US population and is expected to account for 40% of all consumer markets by 2021. So they really are a marketing force and something to pay attention to. And a lot of, I've talked to a lot of business owners where they focused on, probably mostly focusing on communicating to like Gen X, and they missed the boat on changing their communication patterns to the millennials. And now that the millennials are getting older and the Gen Zs are moving into that consumer, that prominent consumer role, you got to play catch up. So I don't want you to have to play catch up, because you can make adjustments now. And within literally the next few years, we're talking like in the next 5 years, the oldest millennials go from like 24, 25, 26 to right around 30. And that is when, they're at when all of us are at our peak of our actualization, right? So that's when they really are going to be coming into their prominence in the market. So let's make adjustments now so we don't have to scramble and make crazy adjustments later. So what makes Gen Z different? And there's a lot, but we'll cover a few of the ones that are most important. Gen Z considers itself more accepting and open-minded. And this is, I pulled everything I've got from market studies like Google Market Studies and some of these other websites that I pulled statistics from. But in my own experience in watching and, experiencing Gen Z from my progeny, from my children, this actually is true. Gen Z considers itself more accepting and open-minded. Almost half of Gen Z are minorities, compared to 22% of the baby boomer generation. So there is a lot more of a racial mix in this new generation, in the Gen Zs. And the majority of Gen Z support social movements such as Black Lives Matter, transgender rights, feminism. And that leads me honestly to our next slide, which is, hey, Gen Z is inclusive. They are more inclusive than any other generation prior. And inclusivity is great. Of course, it's the opposite of being exclusive. And they really aren't excluding anybody. Like, it's okay. Everybody is okay. And what everybody feels is okay. And what everybody believes is okay to Gen Z. It is a very live and let live generation, more so than any generation prior. Gen Zers believe that brands, and this is how it relates to you, Gen Zs believe that brands need to step up their efforts on race representation and inclusivity. More than 3/4, or 76% of Gen Zers, said they feel diversity and inclusion is a really important topic for brands to address, compared with 72% of millennials and 63% of Gen Xers and 46% of the boomers, which means that, hey, that's a really hot topic. And so the Gen Zers want to see inclusion in your brand. They want to see inclusion in your marketing and your content. Inclusion on your website, diversity on your website, diversity in your content, and recognition of what's going on socially. And that's a big thing for Gen Z too. Gen Z cares about current environmental, political, and socioeconomic issues, which means you should too, and your brand should, because the Gen Z is looking for brands that reflect their their beliefs and their values and what they feel is important. According to a study by the National Retail Federation and IBM, there's more that Gen Z is more serious about this than any other generation. And for this reason, 55% of Gen Z choose brands that are eco-friendly and socially responsible. And a study from Google found that Gen Z consumers want brands to be representations of their values, their expectations of themselves and their peers. And that's like literally a direct quote from that study. And that makes sense to me. And honestly, we all have a little bit of that, but it's most important to Gen Z, more so than any other generation. And Gen Zers don't want a faceless company. Marketers need to showcase the personality of their brands. And so personalization kind of goes hand in hand with being inclusive. And so showing who you are, who your brand is, giving your brand a personality, whether that is a face or whether that is a type of message or expressing values. Those things are important, and they're pivotal in the decision-making process for the Gen Z. They look at that more than other gens have. And that is from the Oberlou blog, Marketing Strategies Around Generation Z. Really great article there that I am quoting from. Okay. This kind of is a no-brainer, right? Gen Z is very tech savvy. And Michelle says, hey, this makes me feel like I was born a few years too early. I definitely fit the Gen Z description better than Gen Y. You know what? My wife, who is, she's about a dozen years younger than I am. And so she's like, I'm like right in the middle of Gen X, and she's right in the middle of Gen Y or millennial. And she says exactly the same thing. She's like, hey, you know what? And they call that like, there's like a little tipping point in those age ranges where you may identify more, just depending on how you were raised or like where you were raised or like your socioeconomic surrounding. But she identifies more with all of this Gen Z stuff that I went down with her as I was building this, because it's just incredibly interesting. But she had the same thing to say was, hey, I kind of identify with Gen Z more than Gen Y. So I totally get where you're coming from. Yeah. She absolutely is. She is. We are in a lot of ways, because I'm Gen X and she is millennial. We have some really key differences in the way we go about our work and our leisure and how we pursue interests. It's really, really funny. Actually, it makes it a very fun environment. But I'm like, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. I could talk on that. I could do a whole webinar on being Gen X and being married to a Gen Y girl. That might be a fun webinar. Okay, so Gen Z uses their smartphone more than any other device. Gen Z, 53% versus Gen Y, 43% on average. So about, it looks like about 10% higher. And like I said, like there's going to be a lot of similarities in the Gen Y, or the millennials, and the Gen Z. But Gen Z, by far, they really dig using their smartphone. And I mean, that makes sense because it's probably the most, in my reading, it's probably the first expensive thing that a Gen Z kid received. It's like the first substantial thing that any Gen Z kid gets. According to Google, Gen Z mostly uses smartphones to make online purchases. So we need to optimize that mobile experience. Whereas I know if I have access to my laptop, I will go and do my purchasing on a laptop because the bigger format, and I use these because I don't see like I used to, and so I'm dating myself. But I prefer to do, if I can get to my computer, I will use that for purchases. Gen Z is different. They would rather purchase from their phone, and they're just used to it. It is their primary device. And so this is also it's important when you consider your content. Your website needs to be mobile friendly. Your landing pages, your emails need to be mobile optimized. Like all your content should be aimed at the mobile device. So simplifying your checkout process, creating content with mobile devices in mind, such as vertical videos that you will see on like TikTok, and we'll talk about that. But a lot of videos are shot like this, right? But with a lot of with so many people using mobile, using this, like doing vertical for your videos, is going to be way more consumable for Gen Z because they'll show up better on their phone. And so just a little change like that, changing the format of your videos, is a big one. Okay, moving on. The average Gen Z got their first smartphone just before their 12th birthday. I know my 16, I gave him I got him his first smartphone when he was, I want to say 10 and a half, almost 11. And I think that honestly is average about now. Most kids are getting that. Now, I'm Gen X. I think I got my first smartphone at, I don't know, well, not even smartphone, like my first mobile phone, like what, 26, something like that. It evolved to the point where it was imperative, right? And then after that, learning how to like text with a multi-touch on the number buttons to get, oh my gosh, what they call that, T9? Who remembers T9 texting? my Gen Xers should remember having to like touch a number multiple times to get the right letter. So somebody can co-sign on that one in the chat if you feel like it, but I do. Anyway, yeah, Robin says hated it. Gary says, yep, I remember, Daddy. Yup. Yeah, exactly. It's so much easier now. But what we have evolved into, and yeah, Netflix still use it. Yep. But what we've evolved into is what Gen Z has grown up with. Like they literally, and even before they had their own smartphones, they were browsing their parents. They were using their parents' smartphone as the attention device or the pacifier device. Guilty, right? It's easy to hand, like, here, watch this. Now, kids have their own tablets. They've got their own smartphones from like a younger age. But Gen Z, they got them quick. They got them early, and that's what they are used to. And so they are way more tech savvy, and they communicate primarily through text message. And we'll actually cover that a little bit more. But they spend much more time on their phones than older generations do because they've just had more. The Nokia flip phone. I love it. But they've had more exposure to it, right? That's what they grew up with. Gen Z is high speed. And so I had to throw this in here because he's adorable. But Gen Zs are accustomed to an unprecedented ease of access to travel via companies like Uber. It's like easy to get a ride. It's easy to get around. The rise of delivery services like DoorDash, right? Now you don't even have to leave to go get food. They bring food to you, especially, and that blew up with all the pandemic, right? Now there are tons and tons of these delivery services out there to get groceries to you, to get like food to you, to get your meals, to get whatever. And then hotel replacements like Airbnb, right? So it's not standard like, hey, we got to get a hotel room. A lot of times you can find an Airbnb. So these are things that we are, again, like Gen X has evolved into using. We're slow adapters, whereas Gen Z are the fast adapters. They're quick. They use it first. They adapt to it first because it's just more natural to them. They're like, oh, hey, this is convenient. I'm adapting. And then there's a trickle down to to millennials. So millennial are quick. They're early adapters also of technology. Gen X, like myself, we are slow adapters. And then moving on, like my mother's generation, she's a boomer. She's a really slow adapter. And it's an average. There are some that are like really quick on technology, especially entrepreneurs and business people in the boomer generation. They are quick to adapt because they understand like, hey, adapt or fall behind. So not necessarily representative, but like my mom, who's not an entrepreneur, doesn't have any reason to adapt to a whole bunch of like mobile platforms or mobile access. She's a very, very slow adapter, whereas my wife is faster than I am, millennial, way faster than I am. Here's a comment I'm thinking they're fast adapters too, because they have lived in the fast evolving time. Oh yeah, absolutely. I think you're right too, because evolving is, I mean, it is more native, I think, especially the Gen Z. They watch like millennials, Gen Xers. We were deeply affected by that, what they call the Great Recession, right, where the housing um, the housing market collapsed. Like I was affected. I was actually working in construction management, and I was a like superintendent of building neighborhoods full of houses, and all of a sudden there was nothing to do. And Gen Z watched that happen from the sidelines, but they were deeply affected by that. When your parents lose their jobs and you have to move to a cheaper home, and they can't find jobs, and the recession affects how you live and how you eat and what you drive, and you see like your life contract like that, even from a younger perspective, that affects you. And just like I know boomers have, or not, or the generation before, the greatest generation, like my grandparents will talk about the Great Depression, and I couldn't even like that affects you for forever. It affects multiple generations, the generations and the kids of those generations. So I think Gen Z has had to be more flexible because of because of the changing environment in consumerism, in COVID especially. It's like, hey, boom. And he says, I could watch this puppy all day. I know, it's distracting, isn't it? Here we go. Okay, so let's move on from him. But yeah, he's fun. Gen Z is interested in innovation and entrepreneurship, and this is really true. And there's a really good point here. Here's a comment. Definitely true. My friends, family, team members always call me to help them figure out anything new or with technology. Yup, I'm forever writing step by step. And that's good, Jess, that you're that person and that you're writing down, because that's scalable, right? You're making step by step stuff, and now that's scalable. You can go, hey, here's a link to this doc that will walk you through it. And that's what we do with software as a service. We're doing the same thing as solving problems in our help centers, like step, 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 step. And with your business, that's a good idea also. Anything that has to do with your products or your services, step, 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 step. Awesome. I totally get it. But yes, you're helping every generation behind you level up their game. So the generation after millennials grew up during the recession, witnessing the collapse of housing markets, right? I just had talked about that. I got ahead of myself. Unsurprisingly, most Gen Z want to take matters in their own hands, because there's no such thing as the stable job to the Gen Z, because they watched all of that literally collapse from the sidelines. They watched it, and they were deeply affected by it, because like, hey, if your parents lose their income or have a contraction in income, where now they're down to one parent's income or no income, hey, that affects children immensely. So I think that Gen Z's outlook on employment or making money is a little bit different. And 72% of teens in the United States said they want to start their own business. I think that's very common in Gen Z, whereas like, hey, I want to take like making revenue into my own hands. And so they value entrepreneurship and they value innovation. Gen Z is also acutely aware of how much can be learned online. And this is important to your business. They're adept researchers and they're excellent self-educators. 33% watch lessons online, 20% read textbooks on tablets, and 32% work with classmates online. So Gen Z is really good at self-education. So if you have content out there, self-education content, and they need to learn it, they'll find it. So your content is valuable. And we'll talk about what type of content, mostly like short form, but we'll get to that. But having content in places where it can be found to educate on your products or your services, and YouTube is great. And we'll talk about that. I don't want to get too far ahead, but there's room. So if you aren't doing content marketing, this is a great opportunity, because Gen Z will find it. They will actively go look for it to learn about what is important to them. And so whatever your business does, there is room for you to make educational content. And we value the people that educate us. And it's a really great way to get people into into your funnel and into your list, and get Gen Z into your funnel and interacting with you in a meaningful way. Here we go. This is like a great point. The next one, Gen Z prefers snackable content they can access on their phones. Now, who's familiar with the term snackable content? Because I think I've seen it bandied around. Like, hit me up in the chat. Let me know, like, yes, no, yes, no. But I've seen it used a little bit, but I saw it used a lot when I was doing my homework on Gen Z marketing. Harry says, sure, okay, cool. Yeah, snackable content. I love the term because on TikTok, yep, there we go, perfect. I have a course called Stackable Video Branding Secrets. Perfect, Michelle, perfect. Snackable, yep, I got what you meant. So snackable content, quite literally, is like short and to the point. Consumer attention spans are plummeting, and like from every generation on down, from mine on down, the average attention span is just getting shorter and shorter and shorter. And so you've got to grab the attention. Like, you've got to grab attention and hold on to it as long as you can. I think the average right now is for millennials, it was like 12 seconds, and Gen Z, I think, times out about 9 seconds. So it's really short, unless, of course, you capture that attention. But if they're not interested, the average bounce rate is 9 seconds for Gen Z, and Gen Y is a little bit longer, and Gen X is a little bit longer also. Yes, as long as it's packed with valuable. Yep, it's got to have value to keep attention or to generate attention. It's got to grab, and it's got to grab really quick. Here's a comment. Biggest issue I'm having in my company is getting my other Gen Xers to understand this. Oh, yeah. The stubborn Gen Xers will assume that one size fits all, and it doesn't. And we'll talk a little bit about that, but I feel your pain because that can be hard in an organization to get people on board. Like, hey, we have to adapt because communication styles are adapting, and the next generation of consumers, of big money spenders, the billions of dollars, this is how they communicate. This is how they prefer to be communicated to. This is where they are in social media. Here's where they spend their time. Here's what they're doing. That's really important. So I got it. I feel your pain there. Main dish content would be like webinars, like this, podcasts, ebooks, video courses, like multiple videos for video courses, white papers, in-depth blog courses. So those are more of like main dish content. That's long form, bigger content. And it works as long as Gen Z is looking for it. But what works better, especially grabbing attention, would be social media posts, infographics, checklists, quick tips, short blog posts, short intentional videos. And the cool thing is that you can use these, especially if they're like your social media posts or things like that. You can use the short content to drive traffic to the longer content. Where I could take this webinar, and we'll have an hour of content here, and I can make a short piece to put on YouTube or Instagram, like, hey, top 5 things you need to think about when marketing to Gen Z, and go boom, 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 and I'm done. I'm out in like less than a minute. And I can, at the end of that, it's like, hey, if you want to learn more, click here to the webinar recording, and there's lots of great information. And if that's what they're interested in, they'll click and they'll go. But if not, you still capture that attention, and you're promoting your brand. You're creating brand awareness, brand recognition, and all of those great things. So you can use your short, the snackable content to drive traffic to the longer form content or the bigger content, or like just drive interaction to your website. Here we go. Yes, they seem to think one size fits all. Yep. Once told me I wouldn't be successful with 15-second videos. Oh, you know what? And you probably prove them wrong with your 15-second videos that people actually will consume the entirety of, because they see it's only like 15 seconds, 20 seconds long. You're like, oh, I can watch this. And yeah, perfect. Very effective right now is to do a 15 to 60 second video, then point to a longer video on YouTube. My video clients do very well with that right now. Perfect. Yeah, that is a great technique. And I've seen that work for a lot of different small businesses, like the short, 15 to 60 seconds, which is great. 11-second reels. Yep. 7-second TikTok. I love it. And then you can drive traffic to the longer form content. Perfect. I love that people are having success with that. That is excellent. Okay. So Gen Z uses social media platforms for different things, and they use it differently. Probably, I think the biggest difference would be with like Gen X, more similar to Gen Y or millennials, but still a little bit different, right? So Gen Z uses social media platforms for we're showcasing, and this is from a Google or no market. It's Market Wired did this survey. So it's from a survey from Market Wired is the company that Gen Zs use. They showcase their aspirational selves on Instagram. They share real life moments on Snapchat. They get news on Twitter, and they find like ideas, inspiration, and entertainment on TikTok. And let me know, like, if you see something that I don't have here, or if your experience is a little bit different when either being Gen Z or marketing to Gen Z, because I am all about group sourcing our information. So hit that chat if you've got an opinion or if you've got perspective. Love to see it. But YouTube, you know what? YouTube is my next stop. And this is a big one. Thank you, Jennifer, for leading into YouTube. Gen Z goes to YouTube for shopping recommendations and like the ubiquitous how-to. And I just grabbed some that come up in my feed, things that just show up when I log on, and YouTube's like, hey, here's stuff that you're interested in. It's like, hey, the best trail running shoes. I love trail running shoes. Best trail running shoes. And so here's this guide. And then, hey, best YouTube camera setup, because I do a lot of content. Like I've got so much camera gear around here. I'm surprised I don't have something within arm's reach, but I've got like lighting and I've got tripods and I've got just stuff all over the place. So this is something that I spend a lot of time with. And then of course, like bourbon and whiskey. And if you've been in like any of my, my webinars, I've probably talked about whiskey. I love building my whiskey collection and enjoying it. And so, hey, top 10 budget-ish bourbons, that's right up my alley. So if I want how to, or if I'm Gen Z, I'm going to YouTube to do my market research. Say, hey, if I'm thinking about buying shoes, I'm going to go to YouTube. If like my wife, if she's thinking about makeup or hair products or things like that, she'll go to YouTube. Or design tips or design how to, she'll go to YouTube. All of like Gen Z spends an enormous amount of time there, because this is a Gen Z. This is a big piece of self-education is YouTube. Gen Z definitely use Instagram for their way of being agents and promote themselves. Yes, I totally agree. Like Instagram is a big one. Pinterest didn't hit in the research that I looked at. Pinterest didn't show up as heavily as some of the other ones that I'd mentioned, like Snapchat, Instagram, and TikTok. I think Pinterest is completely relevant. I think it is absolutely still relevant. I think it is more heavily used by millennials than it is by Gen Z at this point, just based on what I had read. But that doesn't mean it's irrelevant at all. It just means that some of the other social media platforms are probably getting heavier use or more attention. And there will be others that pop up because Gen Z is, they're quick to adapt, and they'll find the next social media platform, and they'll build it and they'll use it. And then, and then they'll move on from it, right? Just like this. Here we go. Gen Z has abandoned Facebook. And here we go. There's Gen Z. The ship is for old people. And that honestly was one of the prevailing sentiments from the Gen Z in this market survey. 34% of US teens literally said Facebook is for old people. My wife, my millennial wife, says, no, I'm out of Facebook. I'm out of Facebook. Facebook's for old people. Now, this doesn't mean that you need to abandon Facebook, because Facebook is still a legitimate place to market. the cool thing is that you don't have to worry about marketing to Gen Z on Facebook because they're not there. So the things that you're doing to catch Gen X and catch the millennials that are still using Facebook are still completely relevant. They're great. So keep doing that. You don't have to worry about marketing to Gen Z on Facebook because you're playing the crickets. They're not there. They're on the other social media place. So if you want to find them, you have to go to where they are, like Instagram, big one, which I think Brandon had mentioned. So yeah, that's a big place. TikTok, and now TikTok is building their marketing engine, so you can go and actually run ads and do your marketing on TikTok. So Instagram, solid. TikTok, solid. Snapchat, solid. Like the Gen Zs are on Snapchat, so that's a great place to learn how to do your marketing. And Emmanuel says facts. Awesome. Love it. So I'm going to actually send this slide to my wife because she will appreciate it. And here we go. And we kind of covered this, but Gen Z loves video. Video is such a great way to communicate to both like Gen Z and Gen Y, or the millennial generation. Like short, quick videos. Like we're all very visual. We remember things we see on video better than we read them. And so video is a great way to get your message across. And these are all like just TikToks, and they're entertaining. These are all just snapshots of videos. And Gen Z spends a lot of time being entertained by TikTok. Like you can get just stuck. You can get in a loop, and all of a sudden an hour is gone just flipping through like TikToks. I've done it myself. I've watched my wife do it. I've had to go, hey, I need you. Put the phone down because it's almost addictive. You have to go and put the phone down. So with that in mind, your video content will go further with Gen Z. And Gen Z loves video. So targeting Gen Z, pay attention to video marketing. 71% of Gen Z spend more than 3 hours a day watching online videos on their smartphones. And that's not just entertainment like TikTok videos. It's watching education. Like we just talked about YouTube. So you talk about the video content on YouTube, video content on Instagram, video content on TikTok. So all of a sudden, 3 hours a day, like that's pretty like spot on. That happens to me too. I self-educate with video a lot, and I'm not Gen Z, and I spend a couple hours a day easily consuming video content. And so, yeah, there we go. Oh, here's a fun fact. Video was shared 1,200% more on social media than text and images combined in 2019. Yup, I totally get it. They're very much into the tea. Yes, they are. And that keeps them in the know. And I know this because, and I keep referring to my millennial wife, who is obviously more similar to Gen Z than I am myself. And so she's like that bridge, but I will hear things from her that she has consumed on TikTok. And so the terminology that she uses, or the slang that she uses, or being current on not just current events, but current topics, current socio-political issues, you'll see a lot of that on platforms like TikTok. And like I said, marketing is picking up on TikTok, so you can market, you can get there and be there with your business. And humor is a big part of TikTok. If you can represent something humorous about your business on TikTok, that's awesome. Like small pieces, and people will recognize you. And then you've got brand recognition, and like you've made them laugh, or you showed something that like maybe a little bit cynical or humorous. And again, like with like the brand recognition, it will work for you in your benefit. And then of course you can link back to your content or your website or how to interact with you. Yep. Perfect. If the video is quick, it replays. Boom. Second view. Yep. That's true. Exactly. Great comments. Great tips. Also, quick cut. Here's Carrie says, also quick cuts in short video drive rewatching and comments. Yep. Perfect. Great tips. Love it. Okay, cool. Gen Z likes text messaging. Here we go. And so because they prefer being communicated by text message, then that's something that you should do. And I'm going to like quickly pull in the Keap application because we have built-in text messaging. And this is like, honestly, it's like just a quick commercial where you can, oh man, there we go. I've got to re-log in because there we go. So You can run like person to person, like one-to-one text messaging, or you can do text marketing. You can send text broadcasts, boom, boom, boom. There we go. I can send a text broadcast, and you can send text by automation. So you can trigger text messaging to go out based on certain things that happen when somebody fills out a web form, or when they make an appointment, or things like that. So text messaging, and that's why we added it. It is important to to Gen Z. It's how they prefer to be communicated with. And here we go. Does only work for it? It does as of right now. It works for you. It works for U.S. keepers, but that doesn't mean that you can't use text messaging. So the native text messaging is US, and we're working on expanding markets on that right now. But there is, here we go. Plus this is one of our partners you're familiar with, plus this. And this is an integration to all the Keap applications, and it allows you to trigger text messaging and like do some pretty slick stuff with text messaging as far as two-way SMS. So you can use this as a plugin to add SMS to your marketing mix. So if you're in the US, we just rolled out the text marketing tools, text broadcasting, text automation, and we're working on getting those out to, I believe, Canada and Australia and Europe next. Those are the next on the hit parade. But you can use plugins like this. And there's a number of them out there. This is just one is the top, just top of mind, the first one that my mind went to. So you can add text messaging, text marketing. Oh yeah, I'll put that link there. Absolutely. Here we go. Let me copy that. There's the link. Boom. It's a big link because it's got a whole bunch of tracking stuff. So sorry about that. It looks like a whole paragraph. Yeah, there we go. And then Michelle says, also critical that I get texts instead of emails. Perfect. And that actually is one of my points that I wanted to make, is that you can set up with the Keap app, you can set up text messages to go out as notifications. Hey, your appointment you got an appointment tomorrow. Hey, reminding you your appointment tomorrow. Hey, your appointment starts in 1 hour. I saw a dental office set up so that 1 hour before the appointment, the notification goes, it's like, hey, if you're going to make it on time, you need to leave now. And I loved it. It's like, oh, that's perfect. Out that goes and says, hey, here's your reminder. Don't get caught with your hands in your pockets. Get to your appointment. And so also, now that doesn't mean emails don't work for Gen Z. Emails do work for Gen Z. What I have seen work really well is sending an email, like your email broadcast. So you pull up your list and you send the email broadcast. Then you pull up that same list and you send a text broadcast, which is your short form communication, and you let them know, hey, Jack, we just sent your newsletter to, and you can use merge fields to, jack@keap.com, right? If that's the information you have on the contact record, so you can use merge fields. And now I get that personalized text message. I'm like, oh yeah, no, there's probably good content there. And I can easily, get on my phone and use my thumb and open up that email and look at the email. And that's where your long form content is. I have seen people's email engagement rates go through the roof using this technique, because a lot of times people just won't, like they're not always checking their emails as often as they're checking text messages. So this is a really good way to double down and get more engagement, get more opens, and get more click through, because you're driving traffic to that email. Send the email, you're driving traffic to it also. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, there we go. So says, hey, genius. Yep. And it's nice to have that, because we check text all the time. Like we've got that little icon. I don't know if you can see the icon, but I've got that little text icon that says, hey, you got a text message. And we're always looking at our phone for that. And it's so easy to check text. It is a little bit more work to check email, so we do it less often. So having a text drive to an email is perfect, especially for Gen Z, who relies almost entirely on text. Picture typo in this slide. It says sand. It does. And I wrote sand, and then here we go. And then I copied it. Sand. Awesome. Okay, here, no, wait a minute. Let me back up. And that is absolutely going to drive me crazy. Here we go. Boom. And then we'll present again. Thanks for catching my typo. I really appreciate that. No, not offended at all. Hey, I'm human, and sometimes I make typos. I hate to admit it, but sometimes I mess up. And no, don't be sorry at all. I appreciate that, Robin. Thank you for pointing it out, because I will use this deck again, and I definitely don't want people to sand emails. Perfect. Okay, cool. And then here we go. Authenticity and meaningful interaction are also extremely important to Gen Z. And the reason I have this image here is because this drives to segmentation. List segmentation is really important here. And as you learn more about your list, you can be more targeted and personalized with your message, which means, hey, collecting more information. But as we talk about segmentation, and I just want to, here we go. If I pull this in really quick, and I'm going to go into contacts when I'm doing segmentation, like for like Jessica, and I'll look right here. Here we go. So every time I add a tag to Jessica, I'm putting her on a list. And so I know a little bit more about her. So here's her tags. And in here, hey, Jessica's in my 25 to 30 bracket. Or I might like, hey, she's, Gen Z, she's Gen Y, she's Gen X. And being able to collect this information, you can do this through surveys. You can do this through things that people are interacting with. I mean, you won't straight up know their age bracket unless you ask. But again, Gen Z is very transparent. So saying, hey, we want to customize your communication experience. And like, where do you fit? Hey, I'm Gen X, I'm Gen Y, I'm Gen Z. Awesome. And they'll give you that information with the expectation that you're going to use it to communicate with them better. And then you will. So it's not a bad thing to ask or to have a survey. It's like, hey, we would like to fine tune the way we communicate and communicate with you the way you like, or create your preferences, share your preferences with us. That's really great terminology. And then boom, they share, and now you can segment. And just like I've got on Jessica, here's her segmentations. These are all the lists that she belongs to, but the demographic information is important. And now I can communicate with her in a more personalized way. There we go. And I was missing the comments. Thought it was a Gen Z word. There we go. And then here we go. Okay, so actually, I had my notes right here. Gen Z, again, I know I said this earlier, but they don't want a faceless company. So marketers need to showcase their personality, and they want to see that. They want to see your personality. They want to see a face and a personality with your brand, and they want it to be communicated with specifically to like their interest and the interest that they've expressed and who they are. And so the segmentation is going to be a big piece of that. So use your tags, apply tags to people automatically using the automation. When they fill out a form, or especially if you send them a survey, you can add like a whole bunch of tags based on how they answer questions in your survey. Really good stuff. And I've got a summary. Here we go, because we're right at the end. But Gen Z, so here's the summary. Here's just all the stuff I hit, and here's the summary slide. And of course, you can pull this up when you get the replay. But Gen Z has a ton of buying power, lots. I think, what was the number off the top of my head? Where was it? 200 billion. That's a lot of buying power. Gen Z cares about improving the world and chooses brands that work to make the world a better place and foster inclusion. Gen Z wants a better world, and they want an inclusive world. And if that's part of your brand, and if you can get behind that and not just say you're behind it, but actually get behind it and express inclusion and show inclusion in your marketing and in your messaging, then you will do better with the Gen Z consumer. Gen Z spend most of their online time watching videos on their mobile devices. So grow your brand reach with channels like YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and Snapchat. Great places to have your content. And of course, anywhere that you have your content that people can click there to find your website it helps your SEO. It makes you more findable. And of course, they become extra traffic sources. And you can advertise, right? You can do, you can run ads on YouTube and Instagram and TikTok, I know, and also you can do your marketing on Snapchat. So all of those platforms have a way to invest in, to spend money on advertising, to get your message in front of the demographic that you're targeting. Gen Z has an increasingly short attention span. So get to the point quickly, avoid long ads, and create snackable content. And we've had a great conversation about that. Really short stuff that drives to your longer stuff, because you can talk longer if they're interested. So you want to hook with short content and then drive to longer content. Yeah, tell me yes or tell me no. But tell me now. Yep. I like that. And that's also the thing that I've learned about Gen Z is like, hey, they won't call if they can text. They won't text if they can send an emoji. And if they can't get it past one emoji, then maybe they just won't do it at all. So the shortest form of communication is what I get from my Gen Z kids. I get more emojis than anything else, because you can express a lot in like a thumbs up or a smiley face or a frowny face or a thumbs down. Like you can talk paragraphs with images. Gen Z is good at self-educating. So don't be afraid to serve up content for this purpose. And again, you can have that educational content, have it on YouTube, because Gen Z is on YouTube more than anybody else. And you can use your short form content, again, to drive to longer content. And YouTube is a great place to have it. And then you can use ads. You use those really quick posts and ads, those 15 seconds, 9 seconds, 15, 12, 30 seconds, and drive traffic to that really good stuff that they may be looking for. And are they willing to fill out forms worth more than a few feel? Yes, actually, Gen Z is. Because especially if they know that you're using the information for their benefit. Like you can get Gen Z to share your their phone number, whereas Gen X doesn't like sharing their phone number. Gen Z will, because they like to be text, especially if you're letting them know. It's like, hey, and now our opt-in forms have like a little box like, hey, would you like to, we'd like to opt you into text marketing, and Gen Z will. So they will fill out those extra fields, not like a ton, like you don't want to give them an application, but yeah, they will fill out those extra fields so that you can market to them using like multiple platforms and including text messaging. Great ones. Do you have any data or webinars on influence and ambassador programs for targeted audience? I would have to look, Jennifer. My email is jack.smithson@keap.com, and you can hit me up there and I can dig around to see if I've got something for influence. I'm almost sure I've got something for influencer marketing in the catalog. I just have to go and look for it specifically. All right. The last 2 points, Gen Z does most of their purchasing online, so make that an easy process. They do, however, value a purchase experience and will use brick and mortar businesses for this reason. So if you are brick and mortar, like make it easy for Gen Z to purchase online, like be mobile friendly, have an easy online purchase experience. Or if you're consultative, make it easy to get that consultation to purchase your products or services, but also create an experience for your brick and mortar, like make it an enjoyable experience that word of mouth travels, and people will, the Gen Zs specifically, they won't necessarily travel for a product, but they'll travel for an experience. They'll go out of their way for an experience more than product. And of course, the experience needs to be within those boundaries of like convenience. It can't be like too inconvenient. But the Gen Z has shown a lot of resiliency in in-person shopping. So they will travel to the brick and mortar to get their stuff, even though they can get stuff from Amazon in like 24 hours to 2 days. The experience is worth it. And to Gen Z, it almost feels like a throwback. They're like, no, yeah, I like to go to this shop to get shoes because, or I like to go to this place. And it's literally based on experience. Gen Z really does value experience. And not necessarily the experience can beat out the speed or the speed of convenience of delivery and things like that. Here we go. Gen Z values authenticity and meaningful interaction. So focus your efforts on connecting and communicating in a personal, relatable way with Gen Z, and be authentic. Like authenticity wins with that younger generation, with Gen Z. Here we go. There was influencer marketing is going through a big change right now. Just so you're aware that anything created more than 6 months ago might be super outdated. Yeah, I totally get that. And that's the thing too, is influencers more than ever, especially with Gen Z, your online influencers, your people who've literally built their influence on these social channels is a really big deal. So finding influencers, like literally finding influencers and doing marketing through influencers, is really good for marketing or finding Gen Z customers. So finding influences, people that have a big influence in that in the Gen Z arena, in that generation, is a really great way to build your business. That's a really great point. If you sell stuff online that is being sent out, take that, and this is from Jess. She says, if you sell stuff online that is being sent out, take that extra step to make the packaging beautiful. So they want to take photos, videos, and so on. Yep, I totally agree. I'm guilty of doing that a lot when I get some extra pretty packaging, right? I agree. And also, we purchased something. It was something small for our bikes. My wife and I do a lot of cycling. You can actually probably see a lot of bikes hanging on the wall. We do a lot of cycling. We bought something like niche from a company, and it came like really well packaged, but there was also a hand signed note. And so the note was typed up, but they signed it, and it was a really nice. It was a really nice gesture. It was a really great flourish. I really enjoyed it, and it made me want to purchase more from them. And we do, like, we've gone back to them because of that purchase experience. Really cool. Thank you for that share. Starbucks, spell name on purpose for the. Yeah. Yep, they will. And it reminds me of Wendy's and how savage they are on Twitter, right? They've built a whole reputation being just absolute. And if you don't follow them on Twitter, you should, because they are absolutely savage, and they get a lot of publicity for it. So yeah, just being on those, having a personality on those social platforms is priceless. And thanks so much, everybody. I appreciate it. Perfect. Have a great one, and I will see you for the next webinar. Thanks so much. See you, everybody.